Bien, una cordial bienvenida a la Cumbre Internacional de SBCC 2026 en Panamá. El objetivo de hoy es apoyarles en la redacción de sus aplicaciones para la cumbre. Gracias por estar con nosotros. Paso la palabra a Lynn o Jordi. Welcome to the 2026 SBCC Summit in Panama. Today's webinar is about supporting you to write a successful abstract submission. Thank you for joining us. We look forward to see you in Panama. I now pass the floor to Lynn or Jordi.
Thank you, Jair, and welcome everybody. My name is Jordy Woods. I work for Sightsavers, and I'm a member of the International Steering Committee as well as the program subcommittee. We've been pulling together all of the bits and pieces for these abstract submissions, and I'm excited to talk folks through them. So welcome, and next slide, please. I think we missed the interpretation slide, so there may be one before, but for everyone that's joining, please select. Oh, are we able to get the second slide? While we're looking for it, maybe it's not there. But if you're trying to, we'd like to, this is being translated into English, French, Portuguese, and Spanish. So you can click on at the bottom the translation language. So to choose the language that you would like to listen to the webinar in, and also you can click on the set of slides to, which will be put in the chat as well as in the screen that you'd like to follow in on. So if you would like to follow in Spanish, click on the Spanish slides, etc. And then lastly, on the questions and answers, I see a lot of people putting stuff in the webinar chat, so that's great, but we're also going to be taking questions at the end. So at the bottom of your screen, use the Q&A button to put questions in, and we'll be answering questions at the end of the webinar. So briefly, onto the agenda. We're just going to talk a little bit about the summit and its whole, and really then we're going to dive right into getting a successful abstract and a competitive abstract. We're really hoping to have a lot of abstracts submitted this year, so we want to talk folks through how best to put one. Then we'll talk about the submission process and some of the key deadlines. And as I mentioned just a minute ago, then we'll take questions and answers. Next slide, please. Oh, so there's our interpretation, Sonia. I think it was backwards for me, but again, please, we have interpretation in each of these three languages, and feel free to click on any of the slide decks that you see on the screen to follow along in your language, and we'll have the questions and answers at the end. Next slide, please. So welcome again to the long-awaited 2026 International Social and Behavior Change Communication Summit. And our theme is the power of connection, reimagining knowledge, action, and equity in a changing SBCC landscape. And I think we could underline changing. We are now, I calculated this out, 285 days out from the summit, so 9 months and 12 days. And we're really excited to be hosted in Panama City in Panama. Next slide, please. And before I hand over, just wanted to reiterate that we really are calling on all voices to participate, to submit abstracts, as reviewers of those abstracts, and finally as participants of the summit in 2026. We're really wanting diverse voices from the global majority. That includes young people, and our young people category is 18 to 35. We really are stressing having folks with disabilities, local leaders, and just people who have historically been left out of the decision-making process. So, underlying that just folks' lived experiences are crucial to success of this conference. So we want to have a diverse group of folks represented. So with that, I'm going to hand over to our next presenter, and thank you all for joining. Next slide, please. Who am I handing over to?
Thank you so much, Jody. You're handing over to me. My name is Babafunke Fagbemi, Executive Director, Center for Communication and Social Impact, and really delighted to be a co-chair for the 2026 SBCC Summit. So let's get into the conference sub-themes, and I'd like you to see the sub-themes as the anchor for which your abstracts are really going to land. So it's really important that we understand the sub-themes and how it's connected to the main theme, which again is power of connection. Next slide, please. So the first sub-theme is about connection and relationships, and really this theme really focuses on the power of trust, takes on the collective voices, and also looks at leveraging reciprocity and making sure that all this work towards impactful SBCC programming. But taking a deep dive into connections and relationships, can we have the next slide, please? And as we're going through these slides, I'd like you to see yourselves as potential abstract submitters and also find out which of these sub-themes actually connect and resonate with you and the work you're doing. So for connections and relationships, we're looking at localization, bringing to spotlight storytelling and representation, looking at trust and accountability, taking the shine on social movements and advocacy, and of course, not leaving out the most important cohorts, the youth. How do youth leaders show up in the sub-theme connection and relationships? And for this sub-theme, the focus is really liberating the narrative. And when we say liberating the narrative, we mean, reclaiming power, sparking systemic change, looking at how we actually ensure change from the bottom up. Next slide, please. And the next sub-theme connected to our main theme is knowledge and evidence. And we all know that in a summit as vibrant as this, we take data, evidence, we take that seriously. So let's go to the next slide. So for knowledge and evidence, we want you to think critically through this, these subheadings. Whose knowledge really matters, and from what lens are we telling our story from? How do we generate evidence in a participatory method? What role does ethics and equity play in data acquisition, data validation and data presentation? What innovations can we bring to bear in evidence and knowledge into action? And the spotlight really for this is decolonizing evidence. And I think for a lot of us, this is really, really interesting. And we're really looking forward to abstracts in this knowledge and evidence sub-theme that will shine the light on this. Thank you. So sub-theme 3. So we've talked about 2 sub-themes, and then the third one is action and impact. Next slide. So action and impact looks at SBC in crisis context. We've been implementing in recent year in very innovative, comprehensive and complex landscapes, and we've been doing an awesome job. So how do we tell our story? Intersectionality in practice, where are the nexus and where are the connections that we've been building, especially looking at it from our local context. Youth-driven innovations, system strengthening. And system strengthening is really key, especially looking at the leverage and the linkages between SBC and how it affects system strengthening. And of course, the next generation. And the spotlight for action and impact as a sub-theme is planetary health and collective response. Next slide, please. So sub-theme 4 is inclusion and equity. And next slide. And for this sub-theme, I mean, this is really important. We are all committed to inclusion. We are committed to equity in the different ways in which we implement. So we're looking at communication for equity. What does that really mean? Media manipulation, digital equity and control, dialogue and storytelling, embracing traditional practices for social change. And for this sub-theme of inclusion and equity, the spotlight is ethical technology. There's much more information on the SBCC Summit website, and I'm sure the link is in the chat for you to click and get more information after this webinar so that you can better unpack the theme and the sub-themes and how you connect with each of the sub-themes, or maybe even more than one, and how you can tell your stories through your powerful abstracts. Thank you very much. I'll hand over to the next speaker. Thank you.
Okay, I'm back, and welcome everybody that has joined. And just a reminder that this will be recorded and we will share with other folks. So let's dive into what the reviewers want to see. Next slide, please. So first, I just want to talk about the session formats this year. We've got a few, for those who have attended the summit in previous years, we have a few new formats, but we'll go over those. So we have, the very traditional oral and poster presentations, and that hasn't much changed. The oral presentation, and we'll have poster sessions, which will be digital this year. We also have preformed panel presentations, so panel groups. We will have multimedia showcase, which is, I'm really excited about that. We'll have showcasing of different multimedia types. We'll have a skills building workshop. And then the last two, I'm very excited to announce sort of two new ones. One is 10-minute stories that flip the script. So really looking at sort of digging into the idea of storytelling and using stories to challenge maybe some conventional ideas or challenge things that have not gone well in the past. And then from that, the other last one is failing better, from oops to aha. So really trying to celebrate, or at least present some of the things that haven't worked so well, and what the learnings that have come out of that has been. So I think that these are our session formats, and similar to this webinar, we are accepting languages in Spanish or in Spanish, Portuguese, French, and English. So we'll have that interpretation at the summit. Yeah, so the general criteria for the review really is that, the sub-themes that Babafunke just presented, really making sure that it aligns with, oh, good gracious, that it aligns with those sub-themes, and that whatever you're submitting in an abstract is of relevance and importance to the field of social and behavior change. We're really looking for clarity of the content, conciseness, and being really clear about what it is that the abstract is presenting. And a focus on, the results. So if you're presenting some research, what were the results from that, or any of the new insights from less formal research. Different perspectives. I think, again, as I mentioned, we're really looking to have a diverse group of people, so wanting diverse perspectives and opportunities for the field of social and behavior change. The other thing that we're really looking for as reviewers is the potential for learning. We want this conference is dynamic, as Babafunke mentioned, and we want to make sure that all of the abstracts bring an opportunity for participants and speakers to have learning and share some of those experiences with the folks attending. So we really are wanting to focus on beyond just experiences and knowledge, but having abstracts that build skills and encourage discussion and debate, so that they can be as dynamic as possible. The other piece for general review is making sure that there is a part of how have you measured or are measuring what you're presenting. If you're presenting a piece of research or a program, how have you demonstrated that it's had an impact or not had the impact that you wanted. And then I think finally is just making sure that when you're deciding which abstract, if you've got a program or a research project that you're presenting, making sure that the content of whatever you're wanting to present is appropriate for the abstract content. So, If it's multimedia, perhaps think about the multimedia session. If it's something that's, not totally formed project, but something new and exciting, it could be something on the storytelling or new perspective. So, and we can get into more about that. Next slide. So, the elements of an abstract, I've already touched a little bit on what we would expect from an abstract, but again, this is not totally an academic abstract. It's an abstract for this conference. So I'll touch on a few points of what we want to have in that abstract. Next slide, please. So yeah, what is an abstract? It's essentially it's your sales pitch, but we want it to be concise, but also have a really powerful summary of a clear, powerful summary of what it is that you're presenting. And it should have, a fully contained description of what that program is about and what that research was intending to do. So that's sort of the definition of an abstract, but we'll get a little bit more in the next slide into sort of the elements of the abstract. And this slide has a lot of ors in it, just because depending on what type of abstract that you're wanting to submit, there are different elements of that abstract. And I know that there were a few questions in the Q&A relating to that. So, the first piece is that abstract summary, which is that just clear, concise summary of what it is that you're presenting. And then the next part really is the background or the objective of the project. And in some cases, this may be a problem statement or your learning objectives, what you were seeking out to achieve. Or the challenge. And I think context, is key across all of these pieces. Sort of part of that background is setting the scene and really saying, this is what we were struggling with, or this is what we were seeking to achieve, and this is where we were going from. The next piece is, if it's sort of a traditional, presentation on research, what were your methods? What was the intervention itself? If it's multimedia, the description of that multimedia, back to what was that multimedia intended to do? But is it television drama? Is it a radio series, or is it social media? This is also the section if you're talking about building skills. What is the approach that you're doing to build skills? How you're building capacity or passing on those skills. The description of your big idea, and then finally for that last one, what was the failure? What was the big oops? And then the next piece of that would be then the insights or the lessons learned from your presentation. And I think, again, across the board, making sure that there's the context, the discussion or context of what does that mean in terms of the so what part of it. And then the last part of that would be sort of the recommendations, moving forward from that's your aha moment, if you will. And then in the discussion area, I think that's the area we'd really like to, brief, but really talk about, what are the implications for the field of social and behavior change. So back to the sort of the so what, continuation of the so what. So those are the elements of each of the abstracts. And when you go on to submit the abstract, you'll see each of those elements related to the specific type of abstract that you're trying to submit. Next slide, please. Okay, so I'm not sure if I'm still doing this, but basically, the considerations was really how, Helena, is this you? I'll pass over to Helena. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Hola, soy Elena Ballester, trabajo con UNICEF y estoy encantada de estar hoy con vosotros hoy. We're going to look at some generic considerations. First of all, we want to understand why is your work important. For example, if it demonstrates robust evidence, experiential knowledge from the field, a clear methodology, and well-documented results. We also want to know what is the purpose or the objective of the program, what are the components of your intervention or study, what are the results, and how does the work relate to the conference theme. Next slide, please. So we want to share some tips to ensure that your abstract is competitive. The first one, and I think this is obvious, is that we need to start early so that you can give yourself time for several rounds of revision, and then read the call for abstracts thoroughly. Highlight it, memorize it, or follow it, but you really need to ensure that we are sticking to the call for abstracts. Next slide, please. We also need to be sure that you are clear on requirements. If necessary, you can always send questions to the email address that appears on the slide, and we will be very happy to follow up on that. And lastly, you need to consider your audience. Are them implementers, researchers, funders, or are you addressing experts in the field or perhaps non-specialists or both? What do they want to know? This will help you craft the content of your abstract. Next slide, please. Follow the ABCs. So accuracy, you need to include accurate information. Brevity, you need to get straight to the point. And clarity, by using simple language. And be bold and compelling. With that, we mean that it's important to analyze not only successes, but also failures and how did you learn from failures, present the next steps that are planned for your work, and discuss the implications of your work for the field. Next slide, please. We also mentioned specificity, but now we want to be specific about results and finding, and also take advantage of the allotted space to give more evidence, more data, more examples that can strengthen your abstract. Next slide, please. And this is the last round of tips. Please check your grammar. We recommend to use active verbs to minimize the number of abbreviations. And if you're using acronyms, please clarify them. And then apart from the 10-minute stories format, it's better to avoid using first noun pronouns like I, me, our, since most of the work normally is done in groups. We work better when we work together. And lastly, review, review, review. It is your responsibility as the author to submit a correct abstract, and you can always ask a colleague or a friend to review and ask questions to ensure the maximum clarity. Next slide. As a summary, start your abstract ahead of time. Use the criteria and guidelines provided. Save your work as you go. We don't want to lose any of it. And you will receive an email whenever you submit, confirming your submission. And with that, thank you very much. And I hand over to Caroline.
Thank you so much, Helena. And hello, everybody. My name's Caroline Sugg. I work at BBC Media Action. And like many of my co-presenters, I'm part of the International Steering Committee for the Summit and a member of the programme subcommittee. So now we're nearing the end of our slides, and I just want to highlight what you can do next if you'd like to be involved with this fantastic summit. Next slide, please. So for you, the writer of an abstract, we would be encouraging you to please review the conference themes. We'll talk a little bit more about those later, I think, in the Q&A, and make sure that the central message of your abstract really fits well with one of the summit's themes or sub-themes and is very relevant to the issues we're wanting the summit to focus on. We then recommend that you think carefully about selecting the appropriate session format for your abstract. We have many different formats that you might want to consider using. So please think carefully about which format would be best for you to share your insights. And then the next step for you would be to focus on developing a really strong abstract using some of the tips that Helena and Geordie have just shared and your own experience, of course. Finally, very important that you submit your abstract by the deadline of the 3rd of October. So hopefully many of you will feel inspired to submit an abstract for the summit, and this is what we recommend you do next. Next slide, please. Another fantastic way to get involved in the summit is to volunteer to review the abstracts of your peers and colleagues in this sector. Volunteering to be an abstract reviewer is a really great way to learn about the field and read about the work of other individuals and organisations. We will be reviewing the abstracts that have been submitted around late October, early November in quite an intensive but really interesting review period. So that would be the time that we'd need to involve you. And we've already drafted some very useful, I hope, guidance for you to be using in reviewing abstracts and scoring those to make sure that we're consistent and fair in how we evaluate abstracts submitted. So I think this is a really great way to be involved in the summit behind the scenes. And when the summit comes around, I think you'll really feel as if you've had a great role in shaping the summit itself. So I hope many of you will volunteer to be abstract reviewers. And you can put your hand up and volunteer in your online summit profile. So many of you will have already registered for the summit and will have already seen that option to volunteer as a reviewer. But I'd really encourage as many of you as possible to play your part there. Thank you. Next slide, please. So yes, just a final reminder, and of course all of these details are on the summit website, of the deadline for abstract submissions, which obviously varies slightly depending on where you are in the world. So please take good note of these. You can always go back, as I said, to the summit website to find out more. And then once we've been through the review process, we expect to let applicants know of our decisions in the month of December. So you then have time to plan and prepare more and make your arrangements to come along for your presentations. This is our final slide, other than the next one is inviting a discussion around the questions that you've proposed or posed in the Q&A function. So thank you. We've received lots of very interesting questions already. So now is the moment, I think, to, if you have anything you'd like to ask, to put your question in the Q&A. So we will get on now to start answering some of those questions. And Babafunke, I wonder if I can come to you first. Someone has asked us whether you could explain a little bit more about the spotlights in each theme. What does it mean? What do the spotlights mean? And do all abstracts under that theme have to relate to the spotlight or not? Maybe you could come in and help us with that.
Thank you very much, Caroline. And yeah, thanks very much, Caroline. And I think personally, we find that the theme and the sub-themes for next year's summit, and someone did say in the chat that it's 2025, not 2026, but we confirm that it's 2026 and not 2025. But you find that the sub-themes are really, the sub-themes for next year's summit are quite bold. They've taken on the evolving landscape. And not only are they bold, diverse, inclusive, interesting, but the fact that we're also going to Panama, I mean, as a location is really a great highlight for next year's summit. But that said, the idea behind the spotlight is to, can I kind of say crystallize, the different meanings that the sub-themes bring together, so that while you're deciding which sub-theme you feel your work resonates the most with, it can help you to just better define how best to showcase your work, especially looking at what the abstracts and the contents will look like. So for example, let me start with the connection and relationships. The spotlight for that, like we said, is liberating the narrative. And you remember that The sub-theme of connection and relationships really centers on the power of trust, reciprocity, and collective action. And just make sure that we are walking the talk in terms of co-creation, not just unilateral designs or unilateral implementation, but working with stakeholders that matter. So the spotlight for that is liberating the narrative, and it means we are talking about dismantling the hierarchies or the barriers that we might have inadvertently put in the way of the design or the implementation or the work we do, sparking change, from different points of views, but especially from the ground up, and also reclaiming power. I mean, bringing the stakeholders and the partners that matter into the conversation. So that's the spotlight. But like I said, if you go back to the website, you will find a lot of information, even for the key topics, localization in action. There's some elaboration on what that really means. So for knowledge and evidence, for example, the spotlight for that, interestingly, is decolonizing evidence. And it's looking at how alternative systems are challenging Western-dominated paradigms of truth, rigor, and value. And what we really love about this is, for this summit, again, we're walking the talk. We're not only speaking decolonization in words, but or in theory. We actually want to operationalize this. And we know that a lot of practitioners around the world are also doing excellent work in this area. So you're looking at from whose point of view does knowledge really matter? How do you ensure that when you're generating evidence, it's participatory, it's inclusive? What innovations are we bringing in across the different geographies? So for that spotlight, we're looking at how alternative knowledge is really shaping the way we see the work we do. And that's under the knowledge and evidence sub-theme. For action and impact, which of course is for we data people, right? But it's also looking at no, action and impact is really looking at how you mobilize systems for collective resilience. And in addition, the spotlight is looking at, like we said, planetary health and collective response. And this is rethinking program design, is elevating sustainable innovations, and looking at the different disruptions that we have to deal with. Disruptions at different level, at the level of resource mobilization, at the level of implementation, and other resources that we really need to make sure come together for a well-planned, well-designed, well-implemented, well-researched intervention. And for the last one, inclusion and equity, the spotlight is really focusing on what are the ethics around inclusion, and is communication really a right, or is it actually a resource? I mean, and we really want to reposition communication as a right. And again, in the recent, evolving landscape of some restrictions around terminology, this summit is taking a bold step to call out, these constructs that really matter to the work we do. So inclusion and equity has come to stay. And for the spotlight for that, we're looking at what we've framed ethical technology, which is leveraging the power of storytelling, of course, AI. And there's an interesting question also around AI, and using this, innovative tools to actually amplify equity and inclusion, and not reinforcing, restrictions inadvertently, but also making sure that we're able to address any bias that we find in the systemic level. So I'm going to stop here and encourage you to please go onto the website and read up more information. Thank you so much, Caroline.
Thank you so much. I think that's really helpful and gives us such a good flavour of what we're trying to get at with each of the sub-themes. Just for clarity, for instance, under the action and impact sub-theme, where we have planetary health as the spotlight, I think people's question is, do all abstract submissions under action and impact, do they all need to focus on planetary health, or could they focus on other aspects of action and impact? Maybe you could just clarify that.
Yeah.
Then we can move on to the next question.
They can actually focus on other aspects of action and impact. So for example, the key topics, you have SBC in the crisis context. So it doesn't have to be only around planetary health, But if you are able to do that, then that's fine. But you can look at SBC in the crisis context, intersectionality in practice, and I talked about youth-driven innovations, system strengthening, and looking at the next generation, of course. And for that, how do we design SBC, leveraging on the local culture and lived experience while also adapting to the shifting concerns? So yes, thank you.
Thank you so much. Helena, can I call on you now to help me with the next few questions I have, please? They're about the different formats we're envisaging for the summit. So the first question that's come through is about the two new formats we're introducing in 2026, which are the Oops to Aha format and the Flip the Script format. The question is about whether there's any requirements in terms of the form of those sessions. Do they have to be recorded videos? What kind of forms can we accept under those sessions?
Thank you very much. We are excited to introduce these new formats, particularly on the multimedia one. Multimedia, I think it could cover any kind of content that can be sent or shared through a multimedia platform. So this could be a video, but it could also be a podcast, it could be a TV series. It really depends on what you are envisaging. But I don't think we have a very limited restrictions. Further details will come along. But this is a very new and exciting format to do and propose.
Thank you. And if people apply or submit an abstract under the stories that flip the script format, is there a particular media or form we're expecting them to use in that session?
Maybe I can ask other colleagues from the Secretariat, since on my end, I do not think there is a specific restrictions to it, but I would like to confirm with the other members of the Secretariat.
Thank you. Does anyone else, Geordie, might you want to come in on that since you're part of the programme subcommittee?
Sure, I'm happy to come in. I think no, the answer is no, that there isn't a specific format. So if the format involves some kind of multimedia and it really is part of this flip the script, I think that's fine. But I think the idea of the flip the script is that it's it's a storytelling opportunity. It's an opportunity to that's the main format in that is really that you're coming and you're wanting to sort of maybe incite a little debate. I think that this is a session meant to be provocative, intentionally provocative. So, it would be sort of I think some slides would be appropriate, but it really would be about sort of having a debate and provoking some conversation. So others feel free, I don't know, Caroline, feel free to add to that, but that's sort of my understanding of what we're intending by flip the script.
Me too. Thank you, Geordie and Helena. That's really helpful. And just one more question for you, Helena, while you have your camera on still. Someone is asking here about, we mentioned the importance of the voice of young people in the summit, but people are asking whether being 18 to 35 years old is a formal eligibility criteria while submitting abstracts.
Thank you for this question, Caroline. The answer is no. This is not an eligibility criteria. It's just an encouragement. What we would like to do is to promote the participation of youth. We think that youth hold the future and their voices need to be heard. So we really want to advocate for their ideas, the inclusion of their projects. But of course, if you are not young like me, it's okay. You are still eligible to submit an abstract. Thank you, Caroline.
Thank you. That's a relief to me as well. And just one final question for you while I have you in the spotlight, if you don't mind. Someone has asked, if you submit an abstract for a particular session format, but the organisers think it would be better in a different format, would that be suggested to the author, the person who submitted that abstract, or would we want people to submit twice if we think that their idea could work under two different formats?
Thank you. That's an important question, and I would like also to, I'm going to offer element of response, but please, colleagues, jump in. I think as per the criteria, one of the eligibility criteria is the adequacy of the format to the content that is provided. Meaning that, of course, I mean, if you are submitting something, for example, for a poster presentation, but actually is more kind of a workshop or a multimedia content, it will not be accepted for a poster or a presentation. I think also that is a good idea if you think that one abstract could match two different formats to submit two different ones. However, I don't know if the committee would be able to suggest other formats due to the high number of abstracts received. And this is where I want my other colleagues to come in just to ensure that the answer I'm providing is the correct one. Thank you.
Does anyone else want to come in on that? Maybe if not, maybe it's something we can provide further guidance on. I think we can provide a Q&A document after this session to cover any questions that we haven't been able to answer. There's lots of great questions coming in now. So maybe if we wanted to, we could clarify a little bit more on that. But I think, Eleanor, you make the important point that it's very important that your abstract is very much tailored to the particular format that you're applying for, and if you want to apply for a different format, that you very much tailor your abstract to that. So I think that's very helpful guidance. Thank you. Geordie, please can I come to you now for some more questions? Let me pick some good ones for you. Just a very practical question. Someone has asked us, they've explained that they're a private digital agency with experience in SBCC campaigns. They're not a NGO. Are they eligible to submit an abstract and be part of the summit?
100%. Absolutely. I think that, back to, we want to be inclusive. So yes.
Fantastic. Thank you. And another hopefully quick answer, can multiple proposals be submitted by the same organization?
Yes. In fact, that would increase your chances of having more presence at the conference, but yes.
Thank you. And just one more little one for you. Someone's asking us to explain a little bit more about what we envisage for the skills building workshops. Maybe you could answer that as well. I think for the last summit, it was one of the most popular session formats for good reason. So I don't know if you can say a little bit more, and maybe again, other colleagues might like to jump in. I can too.
Yeah, I was going to say, this is one where I probably would have some others jump in.
Okay.
Sadly, at the last summit, didn't get to go to the skills building one and was very disappointed because I know that they were really popular. But I think it's sort of in the word in terms of organizing something. If the skill were writing research papers, or if the skill were developing scripts, it would be really about developing the sessions so that there is sort of a learning aspect, and that attendees walk away with feeling like they've got a new skill. So I think that it's formatting that session in a way that folks that attend can feel like they've walked away and have at least gained some new skills to apply to their work or to their profession. But please, Caroline, you like
it's so helpful. I'm a big fan of the skills building sessions. I can add a little bit more. I think what we're looking for is very much an interactive workshop rather than a sort of lecture or one-way presentation, as you've said. You've also hit the nail on the head with saying we want the learning objectives to be very, very clear, but it could these workshops can cover any aspect of SBCC skills and capacity. We ask people to be really clear who the session leaders will be so that we can assess that as part of our scoring. So are the people who you've suggested leading the session really qualified to do that? And yeah, will they be the right people to bring these skills to their colleagues? And also, I think the abstract submission guidance will clarify this, but I think these sessions are 2 hours long, and we're asking people to be very clear that it's practical and possible to impart the skills or share the skills that they have in mind in that time session. So to bear in mind that aspect of timing as well. I hope that answers this question. I'm going to pick up another couple myself, just because they're quite quick, which there was a question about whether we'll be checking if the submitted abstract is using AI. Sorry, yeah, will we be checking whether the submitted abstract has used AI? And the answer is no, we will not. We won't be using AI to check abstracts. We do encourage you to make minimal use of AI, and to remind you that definitely we won't be penalising any authors for imperfect grammar, etc. What we really care about is the essence of the abstract itself. So please don't feel under pressure to use AI to fix your writing, for instance, if that's what you're thinking, but we won't be checking that. And another quick question about abstracts related to access to safe abortion. Will that be permitted? And the answer is absolutely yes. Abstracts related to that subject will be permitted. And another question around whether someone can participate in the summit if they don't have an abstract submitted or selected. And the answer again is absolutely yes. Anyone can apply to attend the subject as a participant, and to listen and learn, you don't have to have your own abstract selected. And then another quick one for me is a question that keeps coming up in the chat about sharing the video and slides so that people can refer to these later on, and they will absolutely be shared. I think the link to the slides being shared in the chat, and we will share the link to the video recording after this session. Now I'm going to dig into some more technical questions, I think. Funke, maybe I can come to you with this question. Someone has asked, is it important for a project to have been implemented and finished, if you like, and to have impact results ready to share for it to be included in an abstract submission?
Okay, thanks, Caroline. Excuse me. And the answer is no. But you need to present evidence of how much work you've done and how it still resonates clearly with any of the sub-themes that you feel this really does connect with. Of course, we would really love if you've got evidence of work done after it's been implemented. But if you're not there yet and it's still a good story to tell, do share. And maybe while I have the floor, just to add to Caroline and Jodie's comment about the skills building, I attended one in the last summit, and what I really loved was, apart from the level of engagement and interaction during the skills building, they actually did follow up after the summit. And up till now, we're still in connection. So maybe a winning point will be, how do you increase your interaction and also engage even beyond the summit? And that will be a winning or a selling point in your abstract. Thank you.
Fantastic. And again, while you have the floor, a few quick fire questions for you on some practicalities, if you don't mind. Firstly, does the summit limit the age of participants who can join the summit or come along to the summit? Is the first one. Are you there? Okay.
For me?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Yes. Sorry. Yes, please.
I think for safety and security reasons, we were looking at the idea of what age is really safe to have out there in Panama, especially if you are not a local. And there are considerations around that. But as has been said, to submit your abstract, we are not limiting that to a particular age, because we really want to practice, our mantra of inclusivity. I hope that helps. So if there's any information contrary to what I've said, I'm sure that will be communicated in the coming days.
Thank you. That's great. And someone's asking again for you, please. Can you say something about participation fees and whether people who've been selected as presenters also have to pay a fee to attend the summit?
So there is always a registration fee to attend any summit, of this scope, and those fees will be communicated if they have not been yet. I think I'll defer to Deborah on that. Deborah?
Can you repeat the question?
Thanks, Deborah. It's about whether we can say something about the level of participation fees and whether presenters have to pay a fee to come to the summits as well as regular participants.
Currently, the plan is for presenters to also pay the registration fee as it has been done in the previous years.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And then a related question, Deborah, maybe you can help with around whether there'll be any sponsorship options or travel grants available for attendees to join the summit.
Yeah, so there will be I'm assuming the sponsorship option question that is being asked is really about scholarships and deductions on the cost of the registration. We are currently pursuing sponsorships, fundraising for the summit, and hope to have funding to provide scholarships and other deductions for those who would need the additional support.
Thank you so much. That's really helpful. We're moving a lot between sort of technical substance questions and practical logistics questions. I hope that's okay. I'm going to pick off another couple of practical questions myself. So the first one is saying that their abstract submission form is asking for a session organizer, and this person is asking what information is required here and whether that applies to oral and poster presentations. So we require that each abstract submitted has a named session organizer, so one person who's taking responsibility for submitting the abstract and delivering the session. So under session organizer, we're asking for your name, your organizational affiliation, if you have one. So that's the type of information that's required, and that applies to all submission types. Let me come through. Okay, Geordie, a few questions for you, if you don't mind. The first is about this call for reviewers of abstracts. We want as many people as possible to volunteer to do that. Someone has asked, can we volunteer to review abstracts while also submitting an abstract ourselves? Are we worried about conflict of interest?
Yes, absolutely. You can be a reviewer and submit an abstract. You cannot review your own abstract, but you absolutely can be a reviewer and a submitter of abstracts.
Thank you so much. And related, can you please describe the volunteer engagement process? How can I volunteer to be a reviewer? Do you know the answer to that question?
Very good question. And so to my understanding, if when you go online and to register, because I saw some questions about, how do I submit the abstract? You do have to create a profile for yourself online. So when you go online and to the site, on that abstract submission page, I believe there's a spot where you can raise a hand or volunteer to be a reviewer as well. So when you're submitting an abstract, you can also volunteer at the same time to be a reviewer. Is that correct?
That's my understanding too. That's so great. Thank you, Geordie. And then a question, it's a bit linked to the question we asked to Funke earlier on, but someone here is asking whether we have a preferred time period for the research or intervention described in an abstract. For instance, does the abstract have to describe really recent work, or can we go back to work that perhaps happened a few years ago? Does it matter?
I think the answer is it depends, but I think that it doesn't matter. I mean, you probably wouldn't be submitting work that's 10 years ago, but if it's recent work and it's still relevant, I think absolutely it's worth submitting. If it's work that hasn't been shared with the world and it's work that is continuing to resonate and has an impact. I mean, I think kind of going back to those questions is it relevant to to the theme? Is it relevant to the work that we're all doing? So I wouldn't put a specific timeline of if it's more than 2 years old, can't submit it. And back to what Funke said is that if it's not completely come to fruition or finished, absolutely don't feel like you can't submit something there either. I hope that's helpful.
Thank you. That is very helpful. We've got so many questions here. I'm trying to look through to see which are our priorities in the last 5 minutes that we have. Helena, maybe I can come to you. There's a question here about USAID funded projects and projects that were perhaps funded by USAID and have now ended. Is it possible for someone to submit an abstract that describes that kind of project?
Thank you for the question. This is something we've been discussing, and actually we think the most adequate way of moving forward is to request permission from your own organization. The submit secretariat or the selection committee is not in a measure of deciding whether USAID funded projects can be actually presented. So for example, if you are working for an international NGO that was running a project that was funded by USAID, then it is your international organization that will need to agree on you presenting the abstract. I hope this clarifies.
Thank you. That's great. And then a second question for you, which is someone's asking, can we only submit as an individual or can we submit as a group or a team?
You can absolutely submit as a team. I think is good. Many of the projects that will be the core of your abstracts are not only the result of one person, so it is okay to submit as a group or as a team.
Thank you. And I'm actually going to give you the last question as well while I have you, and then I think we need to wrap up for today. So the final question is what kind of support will we give people who have had their abstract accepted for visa processes? Will we be able to support them with a visa invitation letter? I don't know if you know the answer to that, Helena, or maybe someone else can help.
I think the answer is yes, but I would like to refer to Deborah. Perhaps she is in a better place than me to answer this question. Go ahead, Deborah.
Yeah. Good morning. I realized that I didn't even introduce myself, but my name is Deborah Freitas Lopez, and I am the Executive Director for CCP, as well as one of the co-chairs for the summit. And to answer the question, yes, we will have a mechanism to provide letters to facilitate attaining a visa to come to the conference.
Thank you. I have to say it's very tempting to see all these questions and want to answer them all, but I do think we have to wrap up for today and just thank absolutely everyone for joining. It's so exciting to see the numbers on this call and to see the engagement that's happening in the chat. And I think it just really spurs us all on to feel very excited about the summit. Deborah, Jair, Babafunke, I don't know if you want to say any closing words before we leave today.
Okay, maybe I can start. Maybe just to say that we're looking forward to exciting, compelling submissions, and there are no holds barred. And that's the power of storytelling. You can flip your narrative in a way that tells your story to the best of of the evidence that you have at hand. So we're looking forward to it. And thanks for being on the call. Thank you.
I think Funke said it well on behalf of the summit, and we're quite excited. Participation today was quite high, and I hope that this is a wonderful reflection of the participation that we will have next year. We look forward to seeing you all in Panama.